Boom. We're live. Rob Stiner, Georgia Southern. How are you, brother?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good.
well. Um, I was thinking about uh, like how to have a conversation with you, given that we go back pretty far. But
Absolutely.
you've had kind of an interesting run the last few years. So
Sure.
Notre Dame,
Right.
USC, and now Georgia
Mhm.
Southern. Um, and the last time we've never really had a chance to catch up too much
Sure.
about kind of what that was like for you professionally and kind of personally.
Right.
So would you remind folks maybe we can start when we first met. Um, how did you end up at Notre Dame?
Yeah. I actually worked for Coach Bayless at Mississippi State back in 2012, 2013. So that was kind of an interesting story as it was. I had graduated from Valdosta State as a GA, had a master's degree. Um, Finished up in May. Well, the coaching cycle in itself doesn't really get going until January. So I didn't have anywhere to go. I had to actually move home and try to figure some things out. And, where you really start analyzing, is this what I'm meant to do? Things aren't going my way. But all come to head of I got an opportunity to intern at LSU that year, 2011. And so I got to experience learning from Coach Moffitt and Ryan Philo, Ben Iacchione, Eric Donovan, some guys that are very, very successful in the field. But to be able to learn from those guys, and then also to be a part of a tremendous season, go 13-0, you're playing in the national championship game, and so get to go through some experiences through that that not many people get to.
So that was your first
Right.
introduction with Coach Bayless, right?
Right.
So when you got to Notre Dame, I wonder if you might describe for folks one of the things that we always kind of struggle with here at EF is uh, when someone basically joins a program and is new to our system, right? Kind of getting them kind of introduced and engaged with it. And can you talk a little bit about how that process went for you at South Bend?
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to work with you guys first and foremost was uh, being able to get in contact with you personally. That was such a huge part of it. That customer service and how we developed a relationship is the ability for us to be able to get on the phone and talk. And so any questions that came up or any things that we might need to troubleshoot on our end, we had that opportunity to immediately, be able to contact you guys and get feedback very, very quickly. But to be able to be a part of, with EliteForm and the various types of technology that we had available um, was tremendous. To be able to make sure that we're directing guys in specific ways, making adjustments to their training protocols, and setting them up for success. To make sure that we're not, just guessing when we apply a periodized program, but to be able to get instantaneous feedback, to make adjustments, and to make sure that we're training the guys at a high level.
How did what was your sense of how the kids felt about, maybe I shouldn't say kids, the players felt about like using a system like that?
It was really user friendly for us, to be able for them to just log in on their specific racks and then be able to start. Everything from a feedback standpoint is there. And so we were able to put percentages in, for those guys. And so there is no guesswork. You're not wasting time for guys trying to find their training max, trying to find the percentage that they're training at. It takes all the guesswork out. And so, with that, they were able to get, their specific percentages on the bar. And then to be able to measure them, especially the competition mode. And so, our guys love to compete. And so, to have the competition mode of making sure that they're given the output, because I think sometimes it's specifically one of the challenges not having feedback is intent of bar movement, right? And so being able to get that feedback and get the intent that you're looking for and the speed that you're looking for in a certain or given percentage or given ranges of percentages is invaluable.
Did you guys ever, and I don't think we've ever talked about this, did you guys ever intentionally put like a comp in just to sort of light up the room? Like, was there ever a point where, like, I know I've had this come up with coaches like mid-season, but I'm sure there are tons of times to do it where you just knew you needed to inject a little something into the workout? Did you ever use comps kind of in that way, or?
Oh, absolutely. We want to make sure that the guys are exposed to competition all year round. And so, competition brings out the best in all of us. And so it's cool to see those guys, to be able to see, on rack 10, you can see what rack 1's doing. And somebody hits a PR, they're calling to them across the room and they're challenging those guys. It was a lot of fun, from an atmosphere standpoint.
Nice. Yeah, when the number becomes a score, that's always changes the way whatever game it is gets played. That's for sure. So I know we kind of cut in and out when we're talking about sort of the different positions you've had in the last few years, but I'd love to go back to that. So you're at Notre Dame, and then get an interesting opportunity at USC. Can you share with folks a little bit about kind of what your experience was with that? Because not a lot of people get to even be in that kind of in the shoes to have that as a consideration.
Yeah. To be able to walk out of practice one day and have a missed phone call from Coach Helton wanting to discuss the open position that they had available at USC, it really kind of hit me out of left field. I wasn't really expecting that phone call. But to be able to go through that process and to be able to get with Coach Helton has been tremendous. It's something that, you work your entire career for opportunities like that. And so, to be able to get that phone call and to be able to go through that process and interview and then instantly see what kind of person Coach Helton is and the type of integrity that he brings to football, from he is who he is on a day-to-day basis, he's a family man outside of here, and that level of integrity bleeds into our program and it sets the vision for what we do. And so, it doesn't take you very long to see that, you want to be a part of something, you want to be able to work with him and work for him to help young men, develop young men to be successful. And so was a tremendous opportunity to go in, very, very exciting. But, obviously stepping in and going out to the West Coast for the first time and to be a part of that, LA is a big city. And, I grew up in a rural town in Georgia and, it was different, but we enjoyed it. Me and my wife, we loved Southern California. There's adventure everywhere. But even more so, the family atmosphere that Coach created there at USC. And that's the reason why that I'm here at Georgia Southern, is because I believe in him. I believe in the vision that he has. And so, again, being able to be a part of that, even though things didn't necessarily work out in our favor, I truly believe that sometimes in life we go through things not necessarily to equip us for the immediate, situation, but to give us tools that we can carry with us for the rest of our career. And so, that provided an opportunity for me to step into a director role, to learn. Leadership is a skill within itself. And I think that sometimes, not that you can't be a leader as an assistant strength coach, you just don't deal with the day-to-day communication, the day-to-day, challenges that come along with making the decisions and to be able to, communicate through with various departments. And so that created a challenge and it created a phenomenal opportunity to learn. And through that, and the transition into Georgia Southern, I felt like that truly equipped me with things that I'll be able to carry with me for the rest of my career.
How did you go about the process from sort of transitioning from being an assistant to running your own program? Were there like mentors you leaned on and kind of asked a lot of questions of, or, I know you're a thorough guy. So like, how did you go about kind of checking the boxes to make sure you felt like you were ready?
Sure. I felt like as an assistant, so I was a head guy prior to going to Notre Dame, and I was actually a director in 2014 through 2016 at University of Central Arkansas.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so I was a young strength coach. Probably made I know I made a lot of mistakes.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Absolutely, but what it did for me at that point in my career was it took opportunities and took areas that I needed to improve as a director and brought them to light. And so I felt like, through that, there's some areas that I needed to grow in. And so my mindset from that point on, going to be an assistant after being a director, was how can I make the director's job easier? What can I do on a day-to-day basis to make their life easier? Give me all the, responsibilities. I want to know day in and day out what it looks like at an FIU, at a Cincinnati, at a Notre Dame. I want to know, coach, how can I help you, be a part of that process? What committee can I be a part of, those meetings? But, through all that, I tried to make sure I took as much off of their plate as possible, because I knew that would help prepare me. But at the same time, I don't know if there's any preparation that, until you step in and you're a part of that and you're in that seat. But there were some things that, Coach Bayless, I owe a ton too, because of what he invested in me. Not just him, but, the people that came along, Bo Sandoval, Tommy Moffitt, Kaz Kazadi. There's people that I've had the honor to be able to learn from and to work under. And we're a culmination of the people that invest in us. And so those are some tools that I was able to acquire through my time as an assistant that I felt like I could bring to the table as a director, and still understanding that there's a learning curve that comes along with those things. Like I said earlier, leadership is a skill, and that skill has to be refined over and over and over again. You have to take, inventory of areas of growth, from everything from an off season to a year to year basis. What are some things that I can carry into next year that are better, and so looking at those mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then trying to refine that. And so, I was always on the phone with those guys, Coach Bayless, Coach Stallworth, who's with the Atlanta Falcons right now. I calling those guys all the time, asking questions, Bo, how to handle these situations, how to do it effectively, because I've done it at a high level for such a long time. But at the same time, not, you can stress yourself and lose sight through a comparison, right? They say comparisons, is a thief of joy. And so, it's very hard to take a year one at USC and to compare it to year 4, year 5 at Notre Dame. And sometimes that comparison can add stress. I lost a lot of sleep because of some of those things. The comparison of, okay, we've integrated a system. The guys understand how we do things and how we manage things. And then, it gets a little bit easier as you get more people involved with that. And then taking that and going to USC, whereas year one, you're introducing that. And we had the challenge of COVID. So we're training the team in small pods, and you're trying to get that, your system implemented. And so those are some challenges. But at the end of the day, I'm all the better for it.
So then, USC you're probably just getting momentum going, and then obviously some changes occur, right?
Sure.
And so, but the move is to Georgia Southern, and you kind of already hit on something I was going to ask about. So you were in South Bend, tiny town.
Sure.
Over to LA, totally different situation and culture, right? And now over to Statesboro, right?
Sure.
So how was How was transitioning over to Statesboro for you?
It's actually been really good. Again, the familiarity with Coach Helton, understanding his vision and things like that has been tremendous for us. And pretty much moving back home, me and my wife both grew up an hour and 45 minutes from here, and so we went to high school together, and so but for us to be able to come back, and then on top of that, my wife was pregnant, so we just in August this past year we had our first child, and so to be able to come here, like again, you go through the hardships, you go through the adversity, some of the things that you have to persevere through, knowing at the end of the day at USC, like there's changes coming, and there's you don't necessarily understand why you go through those things, but when hindsight's 2020, you look at the blessings that came from that, right? And so being able to have our daughter here, and to be able to share what we do in our life with our parents and her grandparents, those things are invaluable. And so from a personal side, it's been tremendous for us professionally as well.
You guys have both extended families there.
Yeah, both of them are right here.
Nice.
And so that's tremendous for us. And loving to be a part of it. I've seen my parents more the last year than I've probably seen them in 18 years leading up to that, just because of the demands of what we do and the demands of collegiate sports, athletics in themselves. But, and then also to be able to step in to a program that has tremendous leadership, like our athletic director and our deputy athletic director that are boots on the ground and everything they do, that made our transition seamless, and to be able to see that, because I feel like sometimes, just like bigger companies, there can be a separation sometimes of, being able to have relationships with administrators and, not knowing, what with that separation, not knowing what's going on in these areas of the athletic program. And so to be able to have tremendous leadership that starts with our athletic department, and then to be a part of, again, working with Coach Helton, who's tremendous at what he does, a winner through and through, not just from on the football field, but in life, and the family atmosphere that he brings. It's been tremendous for us.
So now that it's probably fair to say that you're established now at Georgia Southern, right? Mm-hmm. The kids understand what you're trying to get done, right? And it's instead of starting up a program, like, I assume it's fair to say the program is running, right?
Absolutely.
So, what are the hallmarks of what you're getting done there at Georgia Southern? Like, do you have like some fundamentals that you're always making sure like incoming freshmen understand this is who we are and this is what we do? How do you describe that to folks?
Really for us, I think too, going into year two, I think there is a challenge, and I think that there, you can't become complacent. The challenge that came down from Coach Helton of like reestablishing our culture and our expectations each and every year. Not being complacent and taking for granted that these guys understand. And so making sure we're still leaning into that. And so, with that, our goal is to make sure, and being a strength and conditioning coach is to make sure first and foremost that the vision of the program is being run to the standard that Coach Helton expects, making sure that we establish an identity with our guys. I firmly believe that your identity shapes your decision-making. And so you got to make sure that those guys understand the identity of your program. And I think that, making sure that you keep that central message along. I think sometimes as a young strength coach, and I made the mistake of you're always looking for the next greatest quote. You're looking for the next thing that you can bring to the table that, hey, I'm going to inspire these guys. I'm going to motivate these guys. I mean, even through our hardships at USC, I remember praying and just being like, God, like, what can I say to these guys that will get them to perform at their optimal level on Monday when they come into the weight room, and we haven't been successful over the weekend. And it's one of those things where you just love them. You show up every day, you're the same guy. you bring the same energy each and every day, irregardless of what happens outside of here, making sure that you're locked in. Coach Helton says all the time, like, jobs will come and go. Our job is to make sure that our athletes' experience here is at the elite level. And so making sure we're pouring into those guys and equipping those guys to be successful at, not just on the football field, but outside of here. And so I think that, that identity, you have to always touch on those things. And, you can't cloud the message too much, because then it's then it just becomes words. But the other side of it, are you living those things each and every day?
And so, if you thinking back on last year a little bit, personalize this to a touch, right? So
Sure.
had you come with the team to Lincoln before?
I have not. That was the first time.
How did you find that experience, other than the fact that we somehow couldn't get connected?
Well, tremendous. That place was unbelievable atmosphere. It was really cool to see our guys, to be able to step in and to be successful. And, the thing about it is the ups and the downs of it all, the overcoming of things. If you reassess our season and you look back and there's some things where, yeah, we did fall short on some things, but we also rose to the occasion. Time in, day in and day out. Our guys do a tremendous job from an effort standpoint. They come every day ready to work, and so it was cool to be able to be a part of something like that. To be able to be a part of a top 25 win, to beat a rival at home, to become bowl eligible, and to experience those things. With a group of men, those are special moments, and irregardless of, where, what your logo is or what those things are, I truly believe those experiences, you've got to soak them in, and that's what it really, you focus in on what it is about. That it truly is about investment of into young men to be successful, and to be a part of that is tremendous.
You mentioned logos, like for people who maybe like follow college football as fans, right? As opposed to like the people we work with every day. Are there any sort of misconceptions or important differences you think that are worth noting for folks in terms of what it's like to be at a Notre Dame or a USC versus Georgia Southern or a smaller school?
Yeah, I mean, really the biggest separation is probably going to be resources, but that's where, being able to maximize your opportunities, and I think that really gets down to, why are you doing your job? Why is it that, what wakes you up every morning, and when your feet hit the ground, what gets you going? And so, at the end of the day, if you're truly about equipping people and truly about maximizing potential, and helping, people reach their goals and success in life, that's transferable across any spectrum, not just within a logo, but also sport, also different stages of life. I feel like that's where I've truly grown, as a professional is understanding that there are certain things that you have to lean into, and there is direction that comes along with being in a leadership position, right? What is it that you're pouring your time and your effort into, right? What is your personal philosophy that you bring? Not just your philosophy as a strength and conditioning coach. What about you as a human being? What about you as a man? What about you as a significant other, a father? And there's some things that came to light as I went through my career that, that the time at USC and getting let go there was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me from a realization standpoint of, who am I? Like, what is is my identity a strength and conditioning coach, or is my identity a man of integrity? Is my identity answering the call every day? Is my identity to equip people at a high level? And so those things are transferable, and it doesn't matter what the plane is, those are going to transfer across again, age barriers, sports, logos. And so that really shed light for me and opened my eyes to, okay, there's some things that I need to shape up on, I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better father. I need to be there for my family. I don't need to, my identity doesn't need to be through strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning is what I do.
It's a part, but it is not all of who Rob Stiner is.
Yeah,
So to speak.
100%. It's what I'm passionate about. I love doing it.
You had mentioned a few minutes ago, like looking at quotes to potentially give some of the guys, and how that was sort of kind of a never-ending hunt. But you've always had a pretty good reading list. We've mentioned books a few times. I remember sitting in your office in LA talking about that. So what are you reading now?
Right now, reading Grit by Angela Duckworth. And so leaning into that right now.
So how are you, like, when you, like, basically, how do you compile your list of things you're going to read? Like,
I think it's, word of mouth, but, there are some people that I follow, like, one of the books that I love, is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Such a tremendous book about negotiations and different things like that, right? I felt like that has helped equip me as a strength coach to communicate effectively. But there's other things, the Jocko Willings, when he goes through his book list, or you talk to your mentors and things. What are they reading? Different things like that. And so those books always tend to surface. The problem is you want to read them all. You just don't have time to do it. So
the list is always longer than the actual read books.
Horrendous.
One of the things I did kind of prepping for this is, and I think I mentioned this before we came on air, but I went and looked at your Georgia Southern bio.
Yeah.
And one of the things that caught me, it was at the very end, that we've never talked about before, is apparently you fought in some amateur MMA bouts.
Yeah, a couple.
So tell me about that.
Well, I always tell guys that, I love the sport. I love jiu-jitsu. I love striking. But what you find out about fighting is, you're just really good at taking butt whippings, and you're too hard-headed not to come back the next day. So, I dabbled a little bit, but, there came a time that I had to focus on being a strength coach. You're trying to put too many irons in the fire. I mean, I remember trying to be a little bit, thinking you're invincible. I mean, I was training at Mississippi State, to fight and things like that. And, on average, I'd sleep about 4 hours a night during the week, trying to train and, do the job and things. And you can't do that for very long before it.
I think you're probably aware sleep is important.
Yeah, most certainly.
Well, with the 6-month-old, you just got out of that pattern in a different way, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I just felt like that really prepared me for the little one. So equipped.
So you said striking and you said jiu-jitsu. So what was your style as a fighter? Or did you not fight long enough to feel like you had a style?
I fought a couple of times, like I said, but jiu-jitsu most definitely where my passion's at, for sure.
Well, there's a few strength coaches that I know, like, when they can find the time, still roll on the mat, like, and it's across all sports. So it's interesting that, and I don't know if it's because some people follow like Jocko and it all just sort of interconnects, but no, I was super curious. I didn't know you fought at all. So
it was a fun time. Again, you learn a lot about yourself. How are you going to respond? When you get hit in the face, you got to program your mind to be able to respond. You can't just go into a fetal position. And
well, isn't it Tyson's line that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face?
100%. That lives true for sure.
No question. So back to Georgia Southern. One of the things that's kind of cropped up that all coaches are having to deal with is the Wild West of the NIL.
Sure.
And so, kind of ironically, like one of your guys actually did a little thing for EliteForm at one point. But how is NIL? Is NIL having much of an impact on your day to day, or how is that kind of trickling down potentially?
Right. Not really. It hasn't really played a whole bunch into what we do. The understanding that, the expectations are still the same. It doesn't matter what you're getting paid. Doesn't matter, those things that are outside of, our control or anything like that. Whenever they come in, the expectations are still for them to maximize their effort, maximize their opportunities. But you always try to talk and educate as much as possible of making the right decisions. What are you doing that are you setting yourself up for success? What are you doing today that is going to make an immediate impact on tomorrow? And so, with those, our administration has done a tremendous job of being able to educate, to be able to create opportunities for them to utilize their money in advantageous ways. And so it's been really cool to see them navigate that. But as far as, what we do on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't really play into anything.
That feels like it might be a good thing compared to
yes, very much
maybe
so.
some other places. So, because that I keep calling it the Wild West, but
Sure.
depending on like what coach I'm talking to, like the stories about how that's impacting a program just seem to vary wildly. So,
Sure.
and I thought it might end up being sort of, Power 5 experiences a lot, and
Sure.
bigger programs even within that experience it more, but it's just all over the place. So
it is very much so.
Always curious to kind of see how that's panning out for folks. So
I try to distance myself from those meetings. I don't want to know, like I'm going to coach that guy the same way as the walk-on. So, it's better that way for me.
Well, I'm sure as a whole, like the entire squad would respect you more for that. Like, there's always a hierarchy, and there's always like a consideration of privileges. And when everyone feels like everyone's getting treated the same way, whether it's NIL or you're a starter or whatever, that impacts the group for sure. So
100%.
So how do you envision growing what you're doing going forward? Like,
for us, just to continue to develop, that's where, the research, the networking, all those things that comes in, because you want to make sure you're setting your guys up for success. Being able to have, work towards resources to be able to have EliteForm, to be able to have GPS units, different things like that. Those are always areas of growth for us. To be able to, make sure that we're fully staffed, which we're very, very fortunate. We have, four guys, 3 full-time and a GA. And so I know some universities that don't have that. And so, just making sure again that we're, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to making sure we're providing the best training atmosphere, training available to our guys.
Nice. So it's sort of, you always struck me as you're going to stay focused on what really matters, right? And then incrementally improve that. Like, not look at some, like what is the flashy thing right now, but what is the next way to improve and get just a little bit better. So,
and I think, with that, I think one of the challenges too, we were talking about earlier of being able to step into a director role and to the decision-making processes. You find out very quickly, like you can do too much too fast, and next thing you know, you're struggling to stay afloat. You never want to be able to step into a situation and overpromise and underdeliver. And so, we want to make sure that we're doing that, and so, providing the best training we can. And I think too, within that, sticking to and believing in yourself enough in your philosophy to know that, okay, what fits in and what's, to what your philosophy is doing. And I always admire Coach Bayless, because being around him for so many years, his ability to understand and take the things that are going to enhance his philosophy and to step outside and to push aside the things that don't fit in within his philosophy. And so that's always been, such a thing that I've admired so much about, his decision making and things. And, that's one thing I hope to emulate is to make appropriate decisions that are going to set our athletes up for success.
Yeah, that's interesting. When we work with Notre Dame, like there's always someone that's been on point for our stuff, and so like for a while it was Jake, and then you, and then it was kind of by committee, right, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach Bayless always very intentionally kind of delegated that, and so like kind of selfishly kind of bums me out. I haven't had more direct conversations with him, right, because there are all these people that I really respect that he's had a great influence on.
Right.
And then it was like bing bang, like you and Jake, like
Absolutely.
not too long after each other, ended up taking head roles.
Yeah.
Right. At some pretty prestigious schools.
Sure.
And so it was interesting to kind of watch both of your flight paths, right? And both have success, kind of in different ways. So
sure.
Who does, I don't have it up. Who do you have on the schedule for next season? You don't come back to Lincoln, do you?
No, not this year.
You got to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
you got to and make that happen.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, a couple of different schools. We'll open up with the Citadel, and then I want to say UAB or Ball State after that, and then we end up going to Madison, Wisconsin. So,
okay.
It'll be cool to stand across the field from Coach Fickle and Coach Collins and all those guys that from Cincinnati, and to be able to see them, and so it'll be tremendous.
And start a streak of upsetting Big 12 schools or Big 10 schools.
Shoot, man, we just want to make sure we're prepared, ready to go.
I knew you were going to answer something like that. I knew you were going to put anything out there like that.
Oh yeah, too many variables go into it. So.
Well, there's truth to that. Like, despite me joking around, like trips like that are always interesting when you're going into somebody else's house.
Sure.
Your guys are going to be really up for it for sure.
Absolutely.
UAB is interesting because you've got Lyle there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know Lyle Henley, but if you get a chance to visit with him, that guy's awesome. So, no, good stuff. Well, brother, I don't want to keep you too long. I can talk the air out of any room, but the whole point is letting you chat. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Really appreciate the opportunity.
I have never been to Statesboro, but I hear good things. So
doors always open for you.
I appreciate it. So thanks again for coming on, and you and I will talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
it.